A new name, but the same voice that whispers in the dark. Formerly known as Darkmare, now reborn under a new moon as the Night Eerie's. The stories never ended, they only grew darker. Hey there, night owls. If you're settling in for the night, looking for something to help you drift off, or maybe you just can't sleep and need some company in the darkness, you've come to the right place. Tonight, I have 3 stories for you. 3 true accounts that all share one thing in common: Snapchat. That app we use every single day. The app where we share our lives, our moments, our locations, sometimes without thinking about who might be watching. These aren't just random internet tales. These are real events that happen to real people. People who thought they were safe behind their screens. People who learned that sometimes the things we invite into our lives through technology don't always leave when we want them to. Imagine keeping a Snapchat streak with someone for 847 days, only to discover you've been talking to them for 3 months after they died. This happened to a guy named Damian Fletcher in Portland, Oregon, in the fall of 2023. Damian was 24, working as a graphic designer, living alone in a small apartment in the Pearl District. Like most people his age, he was practically glued to his phone. Instagram, TikTok, but especially Snapchat. He had this thing about maintaining his streaks. It was almost obsessive. Some streaks he'd kept going for years. One of his longest streaks was with a girl named Autumn Hendricks. They'd met at a music festival back in 2021, hit it off, exchanged Snapchats, and even though they'd only hung out in person maybe 4 or 5 times, they kept that streak alive, every single day. Sometimes it was just a random snap of their coffee, their shoes, the sky. Didn't matter. The streak was sacred. Damian told me, yes, I actually spoke to him. That Autumn was always a bit odd. She'd send snaps at weird hours. 3, 4 in the morning. Sometimes they were just black screens with cryptic captions like, "Can't sleep again." Or, "Do you ever feel like you're being watched?" He never thought much of it. Plenty of people are night owls. Plenty of people deal with insomnia. But then, in June of 2023, Autumn's snaps started getting stranger. She'd send videos of her apartment at night, just panning across empty rooms. No caption, no context. The videos would be long, too, like she just set her phone down and let it record. Damian would open them, watch for a few seconds, get bored, and move on. But the streak continued. 847 days. That's how long they'd been going. Then one night in late September, Damian got a snap from Autumn that made him stop scrolling. It was a video, taken in what looked like her bedroom. The camera was shaking, like her hands were trembling. And in the video, she was crying. Not just crying, sobbing, gasping for air. The caption read, "I don't want to be alone anymore." Damian immediately sent her a message. "Hey, are you okay? What's going on?" No response. He sent another snap. "Autumn, seriously, are you all right? Do you need me to call someone?" Nothing. This went on for 20 minutes. He must have sent a dozen messages. Finally, he decided to call her, straight to voicemail. By this point, Damian was genuinely worried. He thought about calling the police, but what would he even say? My Snapchat friend sent me a sad video. He felt helpless. Then, around midnight, his phone buzzed. A snap from Autumn. He opened it immediately. It was a black screen, just pure black, but there was audio, heavy breathing, and in the background, whispers. He couldn't make out what they were saying, but they were there. Multiple voices overlapping, all whispering at once. The caption, "They won't leave." Damian's blood ran cold. He tried calling again. Voicemail. He sent message after message. "Who won't leave? Autumn, please answer me. Should I call the police?" No response for hours. He barely slept that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he kept thinking about those whispers. He kept checking his phone, hoping for a response. The next morning, she snapped him. A picture of her coffee. Caption, "Good morning." Like nothing had happened. Damien was furious and confused. He immediately replied, "What the hell was last night about? You scared the crap out of me." Her response came quickly. "What are you talking about?" "The video. You are crying. The whispers. I didn't send you any video. I went to bed early last night, lol." Damien felt his stomach drop. He went back through their chat. The snaps from the night before were gone. That's normal. Snapchat messages disappear. But he knew what he'd seen. He remembered it vividly. He decided to let it go. Maybe she was embarrassed. Maybe she'd been drinking or something and didn't want to talk about it. The streak continued. Days passed. Weeks. Their snaps went back to normal. Random stuff. Casual. But Damien noticed that Autumn's snaps were always at night now. Always after 10 p.m. Never during the day. He mentioned it once. "You always snap me so late. You working night shifts or something?" Her reply, "Something like that." October came. The air got colder. Damien was walking home from a coffee shop one afternoon when he ran into someone he vaguely recognized. A girl named Brianna. They'd both been at that same music festival where Damien had met Autumn. They got to talking, reminiscing about that weekend. Damien mentioned he was still in touch with Autumn. Brianna's face went pale. "Autumn Hendricks?" she asked. "Yeah, we've had a Snapchat streak going forever." Brianna pulled out her phone, scrolled for a moment, then showed Damien her screen. It was a news article. Local Portland news. The headline read, "23-year-old woman found dead in apartment, suspected overdose." There was a photo. It was Autumn. Damien felt the world tilt. He grabbed Brianna's phone and read the article. Autumn Hendricks had been found dead in her apartment on July 2nd, 2023. The landlord had discovered her body after neighbors complained about a smell. Preliminary reports suggested an accidental overdose, but the investigation was ongoing. July 2nd. Damien's mind raced. That was almost 3 months ago. But he'd been snapping with her every single day since then. They'd kept the streak alive. She'd sent him snaps. She'd replied to his messages. He opened Snapchat right there on the street, his hands shaking. Their streak, 847 days. Their last snap exchange, 6 hours ago. Damien told Brianna everything. She thought he was messing with her at first, but when he showed her the messages, the streak counter, she went quiet. "That's impossible," she whispered. But it wasn't. It was happening. Damien didn't know what to do. Part of him wanted to delete Autumn from his friends list immediately. Part of him was terrified to break the streak, like doing so might make something worse happen. That night, lying in bed, his phone buzzed. A snap from Autumn. He stared at the notification for a full minute before opening it. It was a video, taken in his apartment, in his living room. The camera slowly panned across his couch, his TV, his bookshelf. Then it turned toward the hallway. His hallway. The one that led to his bedroom. The video ended. Caption, "I can see you." Damien shot up in bed. His heart was pounding so hard he thought he might pass out. He checked every room in his apartment, every closet, every corner. Nothing. He went back to his phone and tried to reply, but his hands were shaking too badly. Finally, he managed to type, "Who is this?" The response came immediately. A snap. Another video. This time, the camera was pointed at his bedroom door. From the hallway, he could see the light from his phone illuminating his face through the crack in the door. He was watching a video of himself, taken from just outside his room at that exact moment. The caption, "It's me. Don't you recognize me anymore?" Damien didn't sleep that night. He couldn't. He sat in his living room with all the lights on, a kitchen knife on the coffee table next to him, waiting for dawn. When the sun finally rose, he made a decision. He was going to end this. He opened Snapchat and typed out a message. "Autumn is dead. I know you're not her. I don't know what you are, but leave me alone." He hit send. For a moment, nothing happened. Then 3 dots appeared. She was typing. The message came through. I never left. The streak can't end, Damien. You know that. We made a promise. Every single day. You wouldn't break your promise to me, would you? His finger hovered over the remove friend button. Another message. If you break the streak, I'll have to visit you. Really visit you. Not just watch. Damien closed the app. He sat there for hours, paralyzed with fear and indecision. Days passed. He kept the streak alive. He had to. Every day. He'd send a snap, usually just a black screen, no caption. And every day, she'd reply. Sometimes it was normal. A picture of a sunset. A cup of tea. Other times, it was videos taken inside his apartment when he wasn't home, or pictures of him sleeping. He moved out of that apartment in November, broke his lease and moved in with a friend across town. Didn't tell anyone the real reason why, but the snaps continued. She knew his new address. The videos showed rooms in his new place. Rooms he'd never shown her. Rooms he'd never posted anywhere online. I spoke to Damien 2 weeks ago. The streak is still going. It's been over 900 days now. He's tried everything. He contacted Snapchat support. They were useless. He talked to the police. They thought he was insane. He even reached out to Autumn's family, but they blocked him, thinking he was some creep pretending to message their dead daughter. He can't break the streak. He's tried. Once, he let a day pass without sending anything. That night, he woke up to find every light in his apartment turned on and all his cabinet doors and drawers open. Arranged in his living room, spelled out in his own belongings, were the words, "Don't forget me." So he keeps it going. Every single day. One snap. Just enough to maintain the streak. He doesn't open her snaps anymore. He can't. He just sends his, watches the counter tick up, and tries to pretend everything is normal. But every now and then, late at night when he's lying in bed, he hears it. The Snapchat notification sound, even when his phone is off. And the worst part, Damien told me that 2 nights ago, he got a snap from Autumn that simply said, "I'm getting lonely. You should introduce me to your friends. I'd love to start some new streaks." He hasn't opened the app since, but his phone keeps buzzing. What if I told you there was a Snapchat filter that doesn't add dog ears or rainbows to your face, but instead shows you what's really standing behind you? This happened to a woman named Yuki Nakamura in San Francisco in early 2024. January, to be exact. Yuki was 31, worked in tech, because of course she did, at San Francisco, and lived in a modern high-rise apartment in Soma. She was the kind of person who was always early to adopt new technology. New apps, new features, new updates. She loved it all. So when Snapchat released a new AR filter in their beta testing program, Yuki was one of the first to get access. It was called True Sight, and according to the description, it used advanced AI and depth mapping technology to reveal hidden details in your environment. The way it was marketed, it sounded like it would just enhance shadows, reveal textures, maybe show heat signatures or something like that. Kind of like a thermal camera filter, but more sophisticated. Yuki thought it was cool. She tried it immediately. She opened Snapchat, selected the filter, and pointed her phone at her living room. At first, nothing looked different. Just her normal apartment. Couch, TV, plants, the big windows overlooking the city. Then she pointed the camera at the corner near her bookshelf. The filter shifted. The image became slightly distorted, like heat waves rising off asphalt. And in that corner, there was a shadow, a dark spot that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Yuki walked closer, phone still raised. The shadow moved, just slightly, like it was breathing. She blinked and lowered her phone. With her naked eye, there was nothing there, just her bookshelf and the wall. But when she looked through the filter again, the shadow was clearer now. It had a shape, vaguely humanoid, tall, impossibly thin. Yuki laughed nervously. "Okay, that's creepy," she muttered to herself. She figured it was just a glitch. The filter was in beta, after all. Bugs were expected. She closed Snapchat and went about her evening. Made dinner, watched some Netflix, got ready for bed. But she couldn't stop thinking about that shadow. At around 11 p.m., she opened Snapchat again. She told herself she was just going to test the filter one more time, see if the glitch was still there. She pointed her phone at the same corner. The shadow was still there, but now it was closer. It had moved from the corner near the bookshelf to the space behind her couch. Yuki felt her pulse quicken. She slowly panned the camera around the room. There were more of them. 3 shadows in total. 1 behind the couch. 1 in the hallway entrance. 1 standing directly beside her kitchen counter. All of them were perfectly still, but the way they were positioned, it was like they were watching her. She quickly closed the app and turned on every light in her apartment. She checked every room, every closet, every space. Nothing. Everything was normal. She tried to rationalize it. It's just a buggy filter. It's picking up weird artifacts from the AR mapping. It's nothing. But that night, she didn't sleep well. She kept waking up with this feeling that someone was in the room with her. That heavy, oppressive feeling you get when you're being watched. The next morning, Yuki did something she knew she shouldn't do. She opened the filter again. She started in her bedroom, pointed the camera around slowly. One of the shadows was standing at the foot of her bed, right where she'd felt that presence all night. Her breath caught in her throat. She panned to the left. Another shadow in the corner. When she turned the camera toward her bedroom door, a 3rd shadow was there, partially blocking the exit. Without the filter, she saw nothing. With it, they were everywhere. Yuki decided she needed to tell someone about this. She snapped a video using the filter, showing the shadows in her apartment, and sent it to her best friend, a guy named Trevor who worked in software development. Trevor replied within minutes. "What am I supposed to be seeing? It's just your apartment." Yuki was confused. She watched the video she'd sent. On her end, the shadows were clearly visible. Dark, humanoid shapes standing in her space. "You don't see them." She typed back. "See what? Yuki, are you okay?" She tried sending him screenshots. Same response. He couldn't see anything unusual. That's when Yuki realized something horrifying. The filter was only showing the shadows to her, through her phone and her account. No one else could see them. Over the next few days, Yuki became obsessed with the filter. She'd check it constantly, documenting the shadows, trying to find patterns. She noticed they moved. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, but they definitely moved. They'd be in one room 1 hour, then in another room the next. And they were always facing her. No matter where she was in the apartment, at least one shadow was always oriented in her direction. She tried to research the filter online. Nothing. No one else seemed to have access to it. No one was talking about it. She went through Snapchat's beta program forums. There was no mention of any filter called True Sight. She contacted Snapchat support. After days of back and forth, they finally told her there was no record of any filter by that name in their system. They suggested she delete and reinstall the app. She tried. When she reinstalled Snapchat, the filter was still there, waiting for her. By the end of January, Yuki was barely functioning. She wasn't sleeping. She'd stopped going into work. All she did was watch the shadows through her phone. She started noticing something new. The shadows were getting darker, more defined. In the beginning, they'd been barely visible, like smudges or artifacts. Now they had clear shapes. She could almost make out features. Heads, arms, bodies. And they were getting closer. One night, Yuki woke up at 3 a.m. with her phone in her hand. She didn't remember picking it up. Snapchat was already open, the True Sight filter activated. She was looking at herself in the front-facing camera. There was a shadow standing directly behind her, so close that it looked like it was touching her. She could see its arms extending around her shoulders. She spun around. Nothing there. Looked back at the phone. The shadow was still there. still wrapped around her. That was the night Yuki made her final decision. She was going to force Snapchat to remove the filter. If they wouldn't do it voluntarily, she'd make it public. She'd expose the bug, create a scandal, whatever it took. She started recording everything. Every shadow, every movement, every detail. She compiled it all into a video and posted it on Twitter, tagging Snapchat, tech journalists, anyone who might listen. The video went up at 9 p.m. By 10 p.m., it had been removed. Twitter said it violated their terms of service. She tried posting it on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Same thing. Removed within minutes. Her Snapchat account was suspended. She should have felt relieved. No more filter. No more shadows. But that night, lying in bed, she heard something. Footsteps. Heavy, slow footsteps coming from her hallway. She grabbed her phone. Her suspended Snapchat account had been reactivated. There was a notification. One new snap from an account called TrueSight_official. She opened it with trembling hands. It was a video, taken from inside her apartment. The camera was moving down her hallway, approaching her bedroom door. The caption, "You wanted to see the truth. Now the truth wants to see you." The video ended just as the camera reached her door, her closed door. Yuki looked up from her phone. Her bedroom door was slowly opening. She couldn't see anything in the darkness of the hallway, but through her phone, still open to the Snapchat camera, still running the True Sight filter, all three shadows were standing in her doorway, and for the first time, they weren't still. They were moving toward her. The police found Yuki's apartment empty 3 days later. Her parents had called for a wellness check after not hearing from her. The door was locked from the inside. Her phone was on her bed, still open to Snapchat. The battery had died. They never found Yuki. Her case is still open. Officially, she's a missing person. There were no signs of struggle, no evidence of foul play. She simply vanished. But here's the thing that keeps me up at night. After her disappearance, several people reported receiving friend requests on Snapchat from an account with Yuki's name. The profile picture was her, but something was wrong with it. The image was distorted, shadowy, and those who accepted the request said they received a single snap, access to a filter called True Sight. Most people deleted it immediately, but I've heard from 3 people who kept it, who used it. I haven't heard from any of them in months. Their families say they're missing too. If you ever see a filter called True Sight on your Snapchat, don't use it. Some truths are better left hidden. Sometimes the darkest moments in our lives are when we're finally ready to see the light. This is the story of how a random Snapchat message became the difference between eternal darkness and salvation. This story comes from a young man named Isaiah Grant. It happened in Atlanta, Georgia, in the summer of 2024. Isaiah was 19 years old, college dropout, working part-time at a warehouse, and struggling with depression, struggling with addiction, struggling with a life that felt like it was spiraling completely out of control. He'd grown up in church. His grandmother was a devout woman who'd raised him after his parents died in a car accident when he was 7. But by the time Isaiah hit his late teens, he'd walked away from all of that. He told himself he didn't need it, didn't need faith, didn't need God, didn't need anyone. But by June of 2024, Isaiah was in the darkest place he'd ever been. He got mixed up with the wrong people, owed money he couldn't pay back, and was using drugs to numb the constant anxiety and fear that had become his daily existence. Isaiah's phone was his lifeline and his prison. He'd spend hours scrolling through social media, watching other people live the lives he wished he had. Snapchat was his most used app. He had hundreds of friends on there, most of whom he barely knew, and he'd send random snaps into the void, hoping someone, anyone, would respond and make him feel less alone. On June 14th, Isaiah decided he was done. He'd made up his mind. He'd written a note, hidden it in his apartment where his grandmother would eventually find it, and had everything planned out. He was going to end his life that night. But first, one last scroll through his phone. One last look at the world he was leaving behind. He opened Snapchat, checked his messages. Nothing. Checked his story views. A handful of people he didn't really care about. Then he saw it. A message request from someone he didn't know. The username was something like light_Walker77 or something similarly generic. Normally, Isaiah would have ignored it. Probably spam, probably some bot. But something made him click on it. The message was simple. I see you. I know what you're planning. Please don't. There's another way. Isaiah's blood went cold. How could this person know? He hadn't told anyone. He'd been so careful. He stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back. Who is this? Are you watching me? The response came immediately. No, but God is, and he sent me to talk to you tonight. Isaiah almost laughed. Of course. Some religious nut. Probably saw something on his story that made them think he was vulnerable, and now they were trying to save his soul. He typed, I don't believe in God anymore. Leave me alone. That's okay. He still believes in you, Isaiah. The use of his name made him pause. Sure, his name was on his Snapchat profile, but something about seeing it in that message felt different. Personal. What do you want? He typed. I want to show you something. Can you do me a favor? Go outside. Right now. Just for 5 minutes. Isaiah looked toward his window. It was dark out. Nearly midnight. Why? Just trust me. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. Isaiah didn't know why he listened. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the fact that a stranger on the internet seemed to care more about him in that moment than anyone had in months. Maybe it was something else. He put on his shoes and walked outside. He lived in a rough neighborhood, the kind where you didn't go out alone at night. But he walked down the steps of his building and stood on the sidewalk, phone in hand. He snapped back. Okay, I'm outside. Now what? Look up. Isaiah looked up at the sky. It was cloudy, but through a break in the clouds, he could see stars. Hundreds of them. The city lights usually made them hard to see. But tonight, they were brilliant. The message continued. Those stars you're seeing? The light from some of them started traveling toward Earth before you were born. Before your parents were born. Some of that light has been traveling for thousands of years, and it arrived here. Tonight, right now. Just so you could see it. Do you really think that's an accident? Do you really think your life is meaningless when God orchestrated the universe so that you could stand here, in this exact moment, and witness his creation? Isaiah felt something crack inside his chest. Tears started running down his face before he even realized he was crying. He typed back with shaking hands. I'm so tired. I don't know how to keep going. You don't have to know. You just have to take the next step. And then the next one. Jesus will carry you through the rest. He's been waiting for you to call out to him. He's been there the whole time, Isaiah. Even when you turned away. Even when you said you didn't need him. He never left. Isaiah sank down onto the curb, sobbing. Everything he'd been holding in for years came pouring out. The grief over his parents. The guilt over the choices he'd made. The shame, the fear, the emptiness. And in that moment, alone on a street corner in Atlanta at midnight, Isaiah did something he hadn't done in years. He prayed. It wasn't eloquent. It wasn't pretty. He didn't know the right words. He just said, Jesus, if you're real, if you're really there, I need you. I can't do this anymore. Please, please help me. The response on Snapchat came through. He hears you. He's always heard you. Now go home. Rest. Tomorrow is going to be hard, but you won't be alone. I promise. Isaiah wiped his face and stood up. He felt different. Lighter. Not like all his problems had vanished. They were still there, but like he wasn't carrying them by himself anymore. He went back to his apartment, tore up the note he'd written, and for the first time in months, he slept through the night. The next morning, Isaiah opened Snapchat to message light_Walker77 again. He wanted to say thank you. He wanted to know who this person was, but the account was gone. Not blocked, gone. Like it had never existed. The message thread had disappeared. There was no record of the conversation. For a moment, Isaiah wondered if he'd imagined the whole thing. But then he looked at his sent snaps. There was one from the night before, the one he'd sent from outside, standing on the sidewalk. He opened it. It was a picture of his feet on the concrete. He remembered taking it, but what he didn't remember was the caption. The caption read, "I see you. I know what you're planning. Please don't. There's another way." The exact words the stranger had sent him. He'd sent that snap to his story. It had been viewed by 43 people. 43 people had seen his cry for help, and not one of them had responded, except for Light_Walker77. Or maybe it wasn't a stranger at all. Isaiah's life didn't magically fix itself overnight. He still had debts. He still had to deal with the consequences of his choices. But he made changes. He reached out to his grandmother, who welcomed him back with open arms and tears of joy. He started going to church again. He got clean. He found a better job. More importantly, he surrendered his life to Jesus Christ, not as a one-time decision, but as a daily choice. Every morning, he'd wake up and say, "Lord, I can't do this on my own. I need you today." And every day, God showed up. Isaiah joined a recovery program at his church. He started mentoring other young men who were going through similar struggles. He became the kind of person who reached out to strangers on the internet who looked like they were hurting. He told me his story 6 months after that night. We met at a coffee shop in Atlanta, and he spoke with the kind of conviction that only comes from someone who's been through hell and made it out the other side by the grace of God. I don't know if Light_Walker77 was an angel, or just someone God was using that night. Isaiah said, "But I know this. I was planning to end my life, and God interrupted those plans. He sent someone, or something, to pull me back from the edge, and I'm so grateful I listened." Isaiah also told me something that still gives me chills. About 2 months after that night, he was at church, and they had a guest speaker, an evangelist from out of town. During the service, the man started talking about divine appointments, moments when God orchestrates circumstances to reach someone at exactly the right time. After the service, Isaiah approached the speaker to thank him for the message. They shook hands, and as Isaiah was about to walk away, the man said, "Hey, you ever use Snapchat?" Isaiah nodded, confused. The man smiled. "I felt led to create an account a few months ago. Strangest thing, I'm 67 years old. I don't even know how to use half the features, but I get these impressions, like God was telling me to reach out to specific people. Did I message you?" Isaiah's eyes widened. "What was your username?" "Something with light in it, I think. I don't really remember. I felt like God told me to delete the account after a couple of weeks. Said I'd done what I needed to do." They stared at each other for a long moment. "You saved my life," Isaiah finally said. The old man's eyes filled with tears. "No, son. Jesus saved your life. I was just the messenger." Isaiah is still alive today, still sober, still walking with Christ, still sharing his testimony with anyone who'll listen. He doesn't use Snapchat much anymore, but when he does, he pays attention to those random message requests, those accounts that seem to come out of nowhere, because he knows, better than most, that sometimes God uses the strangest tools to reach us, even a disappearing message app, even when we think we're too far gone, even when we've convinced ourselves that we're beyond saving. Isaiah's message to anyone listening is this: if you're in that dark place right now, if you're planning something you can't take back, if you think there's no way out, just wait. Just hold on for 5 more minutes. Go outside, look up, and pray. Even if you don't believe, even if you think no one's listening, pray. Because I promise you, Jesus is listening. He's waiting for you to call his name, and he will answer. Maybe not the way you expect, Maybe not through the channels you'd think, but he will answer. He saved me, and he can save you too. You know, of the 3 stories I've told you tonight, this is the only one with hope. The only one where someone made it out. Because in the end, that's the difference, isn't it? Isaiah called on the name of Jesus. He surrendered. He let go of his pride, his pain, his plan to end it all. And he let God take control. And that's what made all the difference. The other stories I've told you tonight, Damien and Yuki, they tried to fight their darkness alone. They relied on their own understanding, their own strength, and they were consumed by it. But Isaiah, he admitted he couldn't do it alone. He cried out for help from something greater than himself. And he was saved, not just from death that night, but from eternal separation from God. That's the truth that horror movies don't tell you. That's the reality that most scary stories miss. There is something more powerful than the darkness. There is a name above every other name. There is hope, even in the deepest pit. His name is Jesus Christ, and he's waiting for you to call on him, too. 3 stories, 3 different outcomes. Damien still trapped in his endless streak with something wearing Autumn's face, sending snaps every single day to keep the horror at bay. Yuki vanished into whatever realm those shadows came from, her last moments captured on a phone that revealed truths she wasn't meant to see. And Isaiah alive, thriving, walking in freedom because he found the one power that darkness cannot stand against. You know, we use these apps every day without thinking. Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, we share our lives, our locations, our faces. We open ourselves up to the world, and sometimes we open ourselves up to things we don't understand. But here's what I want you to remember. Whether it's technology or anything else in this life, there are forces in this world, spiritual forces, that we can't fight alone. And when we try to, when we rely solely on our own strength and understanding, we become vulnerable. The Bible says in Ephesians 6 verse 12, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places." That's not just ancient text. That's reality. There is a spiritual battle happening all around us, whether we acknowledge it or not. But here's the beautiful truth. We don't have to face it alone. Jesus Christ has already won the victory. He defeated death itself. He conquered sin, hell, and the grave. And when we surrender our lives to him, when we accept him as our Lord and Savior, we step into that victory. We don't have to be afraid of the darkness, because we walk with the light of the world. If you're listening to this right now, and you've never given your life to Jesus, or maybe you walked away from him like Isaiah did, it's not too late. It's never too late. He's pursuing you. He's been pursuing you your whole life. All you have to do is call on his name. Romans 10 verse 13 says, "Whoever calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved." It's that simple and that powerful. You don't have to clean yourself up first. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to come to him, exactly as you are, and say, "Jesus, I need you. I can't do this life without you. Forgive me. Save me. I surrender everything to you." And he will meet you right where you are. As for the rest of these stories, they're reminders. Reminders that we're not as safe as we think we are. That technology, for all its conveniences, can become a doorway to things we don't fully understand. That we need to be careful what we invite into our lives, into our phones, into our homes. But most importantly, they're reminders that there's a very real spiritual battle happening, and we need to be on the right side of it. So before you go to sleep tonight, maybe take a moment. Put down your phone. Turn off the notifications. And just pray. Thank God for another day. Ask him to protect you. Invite his presence into your home, into your life. Because whether you believe these stories or not, whether you think they're just entertainment or warnings, one thing is certain. The darkness is real, but so is the light. And the light will always, always overcome the darkness. Thank you for spending this hour with me. Thank you for listening to these stories. I hope they entertained you, maybe scared you a little, but more than anything, I hope they made you think about what you're allowing into your life, about what you're really connected to through that phone in your hand, and about the one connection that actually matters, your relationship with Jesus Christ. Sleep well, friends, and remember, you're never alone in the darkness, not if you know the one who conquered it. Until next time, stay safe, stay vigilant, and stay in the light.